The contraction started right after she threw my last bag onto the driveway. "Please," I begged, one hand on my swollen belly. "Jack, don't do this. I'm due in 3 weeks." But my husband just stood there, arms crossed, as his mother continued screaming from the doorway. "Gold digger, you thought you could trap my son with a baby? Get off my property before I call the police." 8 months pregnant, and I was being thrown out of my home because my mother-in-law, Margaret, convinced her precious son that I'd gotten pregnant to steal their family fortune, a moderately successful local restaurant chain. The truth was, I'd never wanted their money. I'd fallen in love with Jack when we were both waiters at their flagship restaurant. Back then, he was different, kind, loving, ambitious. But the moment we got married, everything changed. He moved us into his mother's mansion, quit his job to manage the family business, and slowly turned into his mother's puppet. "The baby isn't even his." Margaret's voice cut through the rain. "I saw those text messages on your phone." My heart stopped. The texts she found were from my twin brother, Tommy, who'd been helping me plan Jack's surprise birthday party. But Margaret had conveniently deleted the earlier messages that would have explained that. "Jack, please, I tried one last time. Those messages were from my brother. You've met him, you know." "Save your lies," he spat. "Mom showed me everything. You've been planning to take our money from the start. Well, guess what? The prenup means you get nothing. Good luck raising your bastard child alone." The door slammed shut, leaving me alone in the pouring rain. At that moment, another contraction hit, stronger this time. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands, but it was dead. Of course it was. Margaret had probably planned this whole thing, waiting until I was vulnerable. Thankfully, Mrs. Chen from next door had witnessed everything. She rushed out with an umbrella, helped me into her car, and drove me straight to the hospital. "Those people are devils," she muttered in Mandarin, which she'd been teaching me. "But karma, it always comes back." I didn't know it then, but Mrs. Chen's words would prove prophetic. The baby came that night, a beautiful little girl named Sophie. When the nurse asked about calling my husband, I shook my head. There's no husband anymore. But I wasn't alone. My twin brother Tommy flew in from Silicon Valley the moment he heard, and he brought someone unexpected. His boss, the legendary tech investor Diana Chen. "Mrs. Chen next door is my aunt," Diana explained, sitting beside my hospital bed while Sophie slept peacefully in her bassinet. "She told me everything. And she also mentioned you're a brilliant software engineer working as a waitress." I blushed. It was true. I had a master's in computer science, but jobs were scarce in our small town. And then I'd fallen in love with Jack. "Show me your work," Diana said simply, pulling out a laptop. With Sophie sleeping soundly and Tommy keeping watch, I showed Diana the project I'd been coding in secret during my pregnancy, an AI-driven restaurant management system that could revolutionize the industry. The irony wasn't lost on me. I created it hoping to help Jack's family business. Diana's eyes widened as she reviewed my code. "This is exceptional. Why isn't this on the market?" Margaret said technology would ruin their traditional family business. I replied bitterly. She convinced Jack to shut down my project. Diana's smile reminded me of a shark. "Well, their loss is about to become our gain. How would you like to come work for me in Silicon Valley? Full benefits, on-site daycare, and I'll personally mentor you." I looked at my newborn daughter, then at the papers Tommy had already prepared, divorce filings, custody agreements, restraining orders against Margaret. A new life was waiting for us. When do we start? 5 years passed in a blur of coding, pitching, and building. Sophie grew from a tiny baby into a brilliant little girl who loved computers as much as I did. My restaurant management system, now called ServSmart, exploded into a $100 million company. Forbes called me the woman revolutionizing restaurant tech. Diana became like a second mother, teaching me not just about business, but about standing up for myself. I thought I'd left my old life behind completely, until the day my assistant rushed into my office. "Ma'am, you need to see this." She pulled up a video on my computer. It was Margaret standing in front of my old home, which was now being sold for unpaid taxes. She was sobbing to a local news reporter. "My son's restaurant chain is bankrupt because of these big tech companies. That ServSmart system destroyed our traditional business. And now I find out." She looked directly into the camera, and I could see the moment recognition hit her. Sarah, if you're watching this, we were wrong. So wrong. Please, we need your help. I sat back in my chair, touching the jade pendant Mrs. Chen had given me years ago. Everything comes back around, she'd said. And now, watching Margaret beg on national television, I smiled, because she had no idea what was coming next. I watched the news clip 3 more times, studying Margaret's tearful performance. My ex-mother-in-law had always been an excellent manipulator, but this time, her desperation was real. What do you want to do? Diana asked from her usual perch on my office couch. Over the years, she'd become more than a mentor. She was the mother figure I'd always needed. I want to know everything, I replied. Within hours, my team had compiled a complete report. The truth was even better than I'd imagined. After ServSmart revolutionized restaurant management, Jack and Margaret's chain had refused to adapt. Their traditional methods, meaning Margaret's controlling micromanagement, had driven away customers and staff alike. They'd taken out massive loans to stay afloat, using their mansion as collateral. But here was the delicious part. Their biggest creditor was Chen International Holdings, Diana's company. You knew? I asked her. Diana's smile was pure mischief. I've been buying their debt for years, waiting for the right moment. The house, the restaurants, everything, it's all yours if you want it. I looked at the photo on my desk. Sophie at her 5th birthday party last week, blowing out candles on a cake she coded herself using my interactive baking program. She had my brains and determination, but she'd inherited Jack's dark hair and eyes. Not that he'd know. He hadn't tried to contact us once in 5 years. Set up the meeting, I decided. 2 days later, I walked into my old home. The grand foyer that had once intimidated me now seemed shabby, the marble floors scuffed, the crystal chandelier dusty. Margaret and Jack sat in the formal living room, both looking aged beyond the 5 years that had passed. Sarah. Margaret rushed forward, arms open, but stopped when my security team stepped in. We've missed you so much. Jack couldn't even meet my eyes. You look good. Success does that, I replied coolly, sitting down. Unlike bankruptcy, which is why you're here. Please, Margaret's voice quivered, we need help. The restaurants are failing, we're about to lose everything. Like how I lost everything. I interrupted. When you threw your pregnant daughter-in-law out in the rain? We were wrong, she wailed. Those texts really were from your brother. We found out too late. We tried to find you. No, I corrected her. You tried to find me after my company was featured in Forbes. After ServSmart became a $100 million success. Not when Sophie was born. Not on her 1st birthday. Not when she started school. Jack finally spoke up. Sophie, is she? She's brilliant. No thanks to you. I pulled out a folder. Here's what's going to happen. Chen International Holdings owns all your debt. You have 2 choices. Their eyes locked onto the papers as I continued. Option 1, we foreclose immediately. You lose everything. Option 2, you sign everything over to me. The house, the restaurants, everything. In exchange, you get jobs. Jobs? Margaret looked confused. Yes, entry-level positions at ServSmart. You'll learn our system from the ground up. Starting salary is $30,000 a year. Take it or leave it. That's blackmail. Jack protested. No, Diana spoke from the doorway, making them jump. That's business. Something you both should learn about. In the end, they signed. What choice did they have? The next day, Margaret started her new job as a receptionist at ServSmart's local office. Jack became a junior data entry clerk. The woman who had once ruled her restaurant empire with an iron fist now answered my phones. The son who had chosen his mother's lies over his pregnant wife now spent his days in putting numbers into the very system he'd once rejected. But the real justice came 3 months later. Mommy, who's that lady? Sophie asked during our office's Bring Your Child to Work day. She was pointing at Margaret, who was watching us with tears in her eyes. Just another employee, sweetheart, I replied loud enough to carry. Come on, let's go to Mommy's office and work on your coding project. As we walked away, I heard Margaret's muffled sob. She'd lost not just her wealth and status, but any chance of knowing her granddaughter. Just like they tried to take everything from me, they'd ended up losing everything themselves. Mrs. Chen had been right about karma. The following week, I donated the mansion to a charity that helps pregnant women in crisis. The restaurants were renovated and reopened as training facilities for underprivileged youth interested in technology and hospitality. Margaret and Jack watched it all from their tiny rented apartments, powerless. Sometimes during board meetings, I catch Margaret staring at the large family photo on my wall. Sophie and me with Diana and the Chins, all of us laughing during our last vacation. She sees what she could have had if she'd chosen love over greed, truth over manipulation. But as Diana always says, success isn't just about making money. It's about proving them wrong by doing right. And watching my daughter grow up strong, loved, and free from toxic influence. That's the sweetest revenge of all.